Hi, everyone. It's Joelle at Brooklyn Book Doctor. I'm here with Catherine Liggett. Catherine was a client in Book Proposal Academy in 2022, and she is what are you, Catherine? Wellness teacher, insight
I'm a
timer, influencer,
holistic mental health coach.
a holistic mental health coach. Yes, we worked on that in BPA. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And Catherine really did so well, so much great work in Book Proposal Academy. We went through all the phases together and over a period of 10 months. And as often happens in Book Proposal Academy and in book work, the process ends up being different than what we think it's going to be. So that's what we're going to talk about today. As you can tell, Catherine has some things to say about this.
Feelings.
Feelings. But before we get into all of that, I am going to ask Catherine to tell us what her book is about and who she is in her own words so we can lay some groundwork. But I'm really excited for this conversation today. So, Catherine, want to tell us who you are and what your book's about?
Well, it's a delight to be here with you. Always love getting to chat with you. And my book is Tender Revolution, and it's teaching readers how to make our scariest feelings, the ones we most want to go away, the ones we most want to fix, change, deny, censor, minimize, whatever, making those feelings far less scary so that we can sit with them, move with and through them. And in so doing, the bonus effect is we create the foundation for a more just, equitable, and compassionate world because I see the root of violence and harm as the evasion of these hard feelings.
Wow.
So, like when we're uncomfortable with our own, well, in Western society, grief, very deep, deep grief, for example, about colonialism, genocide, all that stuff. And we don't want to feel that, we project it onto other people, right? We project our own self-hatred onto other people. We project our anger onto others and make it their fault. So, my idea, my knowing is that when we learn, like on a large scale, to own and sit with and actually, like, I'll make the radical claim, enjoy, enjoy. And this is what my book teaches us how to do, enjoy the process of feeling these challenging feelings, then we do create that world that we want to be part of, that we want our children to be part of. And as a mother, that's deeply important to me too. So that's what Tender Revolution is about. And I have a 4-step process that guides people through how exactly we sit with those feelings and make something new and wonderful and beautiful out of them in ourselves and in our world. And the 4 steps are feel for F, amplify for A, connect, C, and embrace. And it's a very special kind of inner child work that we do where we get to the root of where that feeling started for us. Doesn't need to be a memory, but we go in and we love whatever is there. So the heart of this practice and of the FACE method is radical love, because we're loving exactly the things that we most want to push away. So that's
Mm.
what my book is about.
Beautiful. Love that explanation. So clear.
Thank
So
you.
clear.
Thanks to you too. This is a collaborative effort here.
Yes, which is often what the book process ends up being is collaborative because authors have exciting ideas in their mind or in their work that aren't at that beginning of the process in a kind of a book form. They're difficult to say out loud or write on paper in a way that is conceptually in their head. And the process of getting it out in a convincing way, in an organic way, in a deepening way, it is a process. It is a process.
Yeah. Oh, and I'll speak just a sentence or two about who I am.
Yes.
So I'm a former academic, a counseling school dropout, now a holistic mental health coach, with a background in meditation and trauma-informed yoga. And And importantly, and very much to the point of how personal the book discovery and writing process is I'm a survivor of emotional neglect in my own childhood. And my parents were wonderful in many ways and well-meaning and loved me very much and doing their best. And we didn't talk about feelings at all, and that left a really deep chasm for me. And so that wound for me became the shape of my purpose. So that
Yes.
wound for me became that, like, that absence was the portal through which I birthed my book. And
Mm-hmm.
I never expected it to be quite that personal, even though I've always been somebody who's very forthright and vulnerable about my past and my own feelings. But I like BPA helped me to cut even closer to the bone. And that
Mm-hmm.
was part of what was really surprising about the book
Mm-hmm.
writing process, is that
Mm-hmm.
I came into it thinking, because I have an online program, came into it thinking, oh, this is just like, it's going to be just like writing the curriculum for my online program,
Mm-hmm.
or for like a college course I used to teach. Like, boom, 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 I can do that.
Yeah.
But then in a lot of really nuanced and complex ways, like that wasn't how it was at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that I had really been thinking about what they need and what is marketable, um, instead of what's close to the bone for me and what only I can teach,
Mm-hmm.
um, and what my own path is continuing, not past tense, but continuing unfolding in my own most personal path is about this reclamation, this radical love and reclamation of all feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so that was part of it.
Yeah, I want to just emphasize, because it's a question I get a lot, that when, like, what's the difference between creating a course and creating a book? And the way that I think about it, but you have on the ground experience with this, is that a course can be modular, and if you're teaching it live, you can interact with people and respond to their needs as the material is happening. Whereas in a book, you're not going to have that opportunity. And the threading together of the content is something that you do in the book, not in a modular way. Like, there needs to be more connection. So I'm curious if that was part of your experience.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, because it's both more personal to me instead of what do they need. Like, that's one difference. And then that other difference, like you said, is um in a book there can't be any holes in the in the explanation of the material. And I was taken aback by how simply I had to put things in a book format. Like, I had to really take steps back and really break things down in a way that I was used to kind of, well, more speaking to insiders who would join my program, or on Insight Timer, people who are already in this deep personal growth work. And I can use certain terms, and I can take some things for granted that they understand, that I really learned to step back and then explain those far more basic concepts when writing a book, and then spell those out. And when I look at self-help books, which is my genre, I can see that now. Like, it's almost like shockingly basic in some parts. And especially as somebody with an academic background, that was a little hard for me to swallow.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really, I have to be this basic and this simple. But the truth is that it's way harder.
So you
And
get a little challenge in there.
it's way harder to distill an idea to its most fundamental components and then explain those in crystal clear, simple, non-insider terminology. And now when I read some books or read content from some people I follow, I can see that I'm actually getting frustrated when they're using insider terminology now. So, like, I totally see the value of it. It's a very non-academic way of writing, but it ultimately forced me to crystallize, like, what is it really that I mean? And I wasn't even aware that I didn't know those most basic levels. And so that was part of the challenge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so fascinating because it's like you're going from being an expert and in the expert club to being like a real leader where you can talk to
Mm.
everybody,
Yeah.
whether you're in front of them or you're not in front of them, and to see where the doorways are for people to come in. Some people are going to come in at the expert level, but some people are going to want to come in, but they don't know enough yet, but they want to come in. So you found the door to open to help them come in.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, one example is that when I first entered the program, I had been working as a shadow work practitioner and talking about shadow work. And what I do, like the face method, is still shadow work. And I learned through working with folks that there was a lot of preconceived notions and fear about what shadow work was. Whereas for me, like when I really thought about it, I was like, shadow work is just radical love. It's just this willingness to hold and love the parts that we most that we're most challenged by, you know, that or that society most challenges in us, and accept them fully and completely. And when I started speaking about it in those terms, I noticed that people really got on board a lot faster. And then I started doing away with shadow work as a term that I was leading with completely. And that's had surprisingly great results. I don't
Yes.
even use it as a term anymore when I'm teaching.
Mm,
I speak in terms of radical love, which is more accessible
yeah.
and positive and just brings people in, because that was always a goal, was making my work more accessible.
I remember when we were tossing around the idea of FACE as an acronym that you would use, and it seemed too simple at the time.
I hated it. It was an idea that like literally dropped in on the couch. I was like, what's an acronym that I can use? And this is hilarious, but I was initially going to go with pain. Like, yeah, love our pain. Like, and then I was like, no, that is so not marketable. That's a horrible idea. Like, and I had like the, you know, what each of those was gonna stand for, PAIN. But then I was like, okay, what's a much better, okay, face? And I remember when that dropped in on the couch in my house, and I told my husband about it because he was like in the kitchen and like right there. I was like, is this really stupid? This just feels really stupid. Like, face yourself, face it. But one of the beauties of BPA is that community and all of you being able to liberate me from my own biases and my own head and my own judgment, which was like easily one of the most valuable parts of the program. I mean, so valuable, if not the most valuable. It's like, getting that validation, and all of you like universally just caught on to that, like, that is great, that is great. And I was like, oh no, no, it's stupid. And you're like, that's great, it feels big, this feels like a big shift in your work. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll keep chewing on it and keep moving forward with it. And it's really paid off, and it's really grown on me. I mean, not that I'm 100% comfortable with it, but I'm moving forward with it, and it's landing a lot better with people than I could ever have imagined.
The thing about the container in BPA is that you know you're with intelligent people who in some way or another are on the same page with you. Like maybe there were people in your group who didn't know what shadow work was. But they were on board with your project. So you knew that they were on your side and you knew that they were intelligent readers. So I can imagine that when they responded to face, it felt legitimate because you knew that they were coming from, in a general way, a place that would be like your readers.
Yeah. And that was such a valuable part of the group, is that nobody was an insider. You know, maybe like one person had done some shadow work before, but like that was so great
Yeah.
because that is who I want to attract. Like I have a wonderful following of insiders. And now it's time to expand. So,
Yes.
and that
Yes.
expansion is uncomfortable.
Uh-huh. Yes. Yes. I was wondering if there's anything else that you came into the book process, any other idea you came into the book process with that, an expectation that got really turned on its head during the process.
Oh, gee, I have no idea what you're talking about. Joelle. No, it was completely as expected. So, one of my biggest turning on its head moments it was that I came into it, and I'm very used to in my life just kind of taking things 150% and doing a great job and then getting what I want. And like, you can call that white privilege, you can call that entitlement, you can call that, just whatever, like trauma response, but like that is how I approached it. I was like, okay, dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's and doing like exceeding expectations. And so of course I'm gonna like get an agent right away. Like just like, the last step in the program is find your agent. So that's what I'm gonna do. That's what's gonna happen. And so I finished the proposal and I was so proud of it, and started querying agents like months, like a couple months ahead of when I was going to leave BPA. I was like, oh, it's going to be plenty of time for me to get an agent. I even started thinking about my celebratory trip that I was going to take when I was getting an agent. Like cart before the horse, but I was so confident like that. And then, rejections or crickets, and that was majorly difficult for me and majorly growthful. And I got some encouraging rejections, like everybody who, well, some people, a few people who wrote me back who were great agents said that, it's a really great proposal, it's a really compelling project, and I know you're going to find the perfect agent to champion this. But still, like, I hadn't had, again, like, be it privilege, entitlement, whatever, I hadn't had that experience in my life personally before of doing everything far beyond expectations and then not getting what I want. And it was such an important and good experience for me to not have it be that easy, because that happened, like all the wave of rejections or nothing happened right when I was leaving BPA, because it usually takes about 2 months to hear from agents. So yeah, and so I had the holiday, the winter season as a time to take a break and really go inward about it and reconnect to myself and my soul, and the project, like my own connection to it, and just realizing the layers of how attached to the outcome I was and how attached to the performance of it I was, and how various like ego layers of myself were like younger, like less mature layers were really dependent on that for a feeling of worthiness. And having the opportunity to take a break for a couple months without working on it was a great way to grieve. Like I did a lot of just full body grieving. Like it really hit me. The rejections were bone deep, straight into my childhood wounds. Like, whoa. So a lot of facing myself, a lot of deep grief. And I was able to really be reborn from that. And I feel much more centered now as I'm preparing now for this phase 2 of new agent queries and continuing to reach out. And I feel less attached to what they think and what they say. And I don't feel like my worth is attached to that anymore. And yeah, so that was the big turnaround for me, is not getting the carrot on the end of the stick and then having to go inward and find that new authentic centered connection to my project.
Yeah. Yes. Thanks for sharing all of that. We find in the book proposal process, which is essentially the book proposal process is essentially creating your book. You're just not writing the whole thing right away. And I have seen time and time again that there is something in that process that is deeply challenging for people. And it comes in different flavors and different expressions. The people who can what is the word I want? Metabolize it are the ones who have so much better chance of becoming the author that they want to be.
Yeah.
It really is this hero or heroine's journey into the dark cave and then coming out the other side. And also, we talk about in Book Proposal Academy how you often end up living your book, no matter what book it is you're writing. So,
Yeah.
You going deep into that cave and using the face method, it's it tracks, it tracks.
I also happened to have two miscarriages while in BPA. I had never had a miscarriage before, and then I had two while in the program. And so, yes, I was facing a lot
A
through
lot,
the
a lot.
program.
Yes, a lot of hope and grief
Yeah.
and surrendering timelines and all of that. But you did such a phenomenal job of everything that you undertook and are undertaking. So that overperformer, that high achiever lives on in a more integrated way
Yeah.
now, which is just tremendous.
Yeah. Yeah. Like so often our wounds are also gifts, and the edges that we had to develop for survival are also edges that help us. So
Yes, yes. It's
um,
that fun koan of existence.
yeah. So I appreciate myself, and I'm glad I understand astrology so I know where that is in my chart. Like, oh yeah, that's the achiever, and that's an authentic part of who I am. It's just
Yeah.
when it's on axis, when it's centered and coming from this place instead of this place, that's
Hmm.
when I know that it's
Mm.
healthy.
When you're leaning back into it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Awesome. Well, I think that was one of my big questions is how is writing a book, being in Book Proposal Academy, how was that process of personal transformation? And you've answered that really fully and beautifully. So thank you for sharing so generously and vulnerably. I know that that is your specialty, but I
My thing.
also appreciate it very much, as we all do and did in Book Proposal Academy.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So what can I say? I guess the last question would be, well, the two last questions. One would be, um, what was a surprising thing for you in the process that maybe was a positive surprising thing? Like obviously you weren't expecting to not achieve your goal or to have that much grief at the end of the program, but I imagine there were also some happy surprises along the way.
Yeah. Um, I was really surprised by how delving into marketing and like platform research, I was really dreading it at first, but then the more I did it and like faced the discomfort I had with it, and it became really enjoyable. And like one because what we're asked to do is really when we're thinking about marketing and promotion, think about who we know, like in our extended circle, who has wide influence. And I remember just sitting in my house one day and thinking about it. And I'd been mulling it over for weeks, like, oh, I don't know any famous people. I don't know any influencers. Like, oh, I'm not cut out for this. I don't know enough people. And then one day, just like my husband Carlos came up to me and said, like, oh, this is a really funny thing that Bassem posted. Like, check it out. I was like, Bassem Youssef. Oh my God, like the political satirist. And like I remembered, I saw him on Jon Stewart like years ago, like 10 years ago. And like, oh my God, do you think Bassem would support my book and write a little testimonial for it? And it was such a so we ended up zooming with him, and he ended up writing like vibing with the project. And he wrote the most beautiful blurb out of anyone, including like I was like, is he going to even get this stuff? He totally got it. He wrote a beautiful blurb, and he has like a combined 11 million social media followers.
Not a
So
small number.
hey, not a small number. So that was one cool surprise. And I was so nervous the day we were zooming with him that I had a huge muscle. I woke up with a huge muscle spasm, and it was just so it was kind of a funny part of it. But yeah, like that was a surprise. And I ended up just really enjoying the process, and it made me feel like, wow, this actually does have a more of a foundation and I have more of a platform than I thought that I
Mhm.
did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that moment when you see the reality of an audience for your idea, and everything you believed in up to that point gets validated in that moment, can be so exhilarating, and you can feel humble and grateful and excited, and suddenly your idea is like, well, I did have this idea, but now it's bigger than me. That's a very expansive moment.
Yeah. And so the other thing, maybe like the single most beautiful thing I've taken from this process is I hadn't realized how fiercely it would require me to believe in myself. Like um I would say it's almost on par. I mean, not, I was going to say with becoming a mother. It's not quite that. That's probably the single most growthful thing that's happened to me, but like this is a close second, and it's very different. It's another kind of birthing where there's no other, right? When I'm a mother, there's an other, there's my child that I'm growing in relationship with, but this kind of birthing, this project, I'm with myself. And I have to fiercely protect myself and believe in myself and hold myself through it all. And just the extent of the depth, yeah, it has been so massively rewarding and growthful for all areas of my life,
Mm,
you
amazing.
know? And I feel like I have this really deep center line in confidence and belief in myself. And because I went through BPA, I have a proposal that I know is vetted and high quality. And I know it's not going to be that people are rejecting, and now I know, and I'm believing more and more that it's not me that people are rejecting,
Exactly.
so I can move through it holding on to myself with this deep belief in myself and not take all of these ups and downs personally
Yeah.
as much. And that's just so growthful. I mean, as a woman, as a human, as
As someone with ideas to share
yeah,
and people to help.
yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. It's so interesting. It's so helpful. It's so exciting because now that you're in this position of pitching again from that grounded place, you are moving on more solid ground as you go forward into this next round. And I know you're doing more with the face concept with Insight Timer and with your course and your clients, which will only help the book. And I can't wait to see what happens. I have full confidence in this project and in you.
Thank you, Joelle. It means so much.
Before we go, will you just let people know how to find you?
Yeah. So my website is catherineliggett.com. That's Catherine with a C and then Liggett. And you can find me easily on Insight Timer. That's my biggest platform. I have tons and tons of recorded talks and guided practices. And I'm soon going to have a course there that's free for Insight Timer subscribers. And it's going to be called something like Holding Ourselves in Radical Love. And yeah, that's the best way to find me. I'm also on Instagram secondarily. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And just a reminder, the program that Catherine was in was called Book Proposal Academy. You can find out more about it on brooklynbookdoctor.com or on Instagram. Follow me there at Brooklyn Book Doctor, and I'm happy to message with you and tell you more about it if that's something that's interesting to you. So thanks so much, Catherine. It's great to see you. It's been wonderful to work with you, and I know we're going to stay in touch about everything that develops from here on.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Joelle.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.